All right, we are now joined on the Sharks Audio Network by Max Miller, of course, NHL.com, and many other things. He keeps busy. Max, what's going on, man? How are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Ted.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. And, we are talking here on this Thursday afternoon before a pivotal Sharks game, whereas my feeling was that, they had to win at least one of the two games in this Edmonton Anaheim home and away back to back. They obviously did not win against Edmonton. They've got Anaheim tonight. So, I guess I'll put it this way. If they lose tonight, is the dream over?
I mean, it's not officially over, but I mean, if you lose tonight and Nashville and LA win, especially if Nashville wins in regulation, it's gonna be tough. There's 5 games left. I, I mean, probably at worst you can go 4-0-1 and maybe sneak in, but it's gonna be
Maybe.
tough to really get in. I mean, you have to beat Nashville on Monday, but you can't start thinking about that till you beat Anaheim today, and
Yeah.
like it's tough. Look, they have a schedule to do it, right? Let's say you win tonight's game, you go against Nashville, you beat them, then you play Chicago, and then you have Winnipeg.
Mhm.
If you win the games, Winnipeg could be the hardest matchup, but it's really Nashville, right? Anaheim's in free fall, so I don't think they're dead per se if they lose tonight, but that money puck percentage is going way down.
If they miss out when all is said and done, it's still a successful season, in my opinion, just because they have, far exceeded what anyone's expectations were. Um, but are we going to look at the 2 6-game losing streaks? Or are we going to look to like a loss or two against a Calgary team that's not been very good? Like where are you going to look at as where they lost their opportunity? Or is it all part of a greater package where we say that they're just not ready in any normal season? They probably would not have been sniffing the postseason.
I think you could do a combination of both because the defense is what it is. They play hard, but systematically, I think they're behind. They're lacking,
Yeah.
but that could also be partially because of the roster that's built there. I think there could have been some different utilizations of different players, but we are what we see, and that's what it is. So I think there's definitely moments throughout the season where you could say, look, they had their opportunity, and you could look at the first 2 games of the year. They had both of those, a fluky bounce in the first game.
Yep.
Probably not a game they deserved to win in the second game against Anaheim, but they had the opportunity to do so. You didn't close it out. And then you look at the 2 6-game losing streaks, and in those losing streaks, there wasn't many overtime losses where teams around them, like Winnipeg and Nashville and Seattle, even for a little bit, and especially LA, picked up the loser point. So while it's great the Sharks have these regulation wins and overtime wins, when they did lose, most of the time it was in regulation. Only 3 overtimes. I think it was like 10-3 or 10 and
Mhm.
4. Or sorry, 3 shootouts, only 10-3 or 10-4 in overtime, one of the best in the league about it. So you only picked up a few loser points. That's tough. And obviously you want to win the games,
Well,
but
especially compare it to LA.
well, yeah, well, 32 overtime games is atrocious, and they have no business getting in the playoffs because of that, right? It's a difference, right? I'm not saying the Sharks should have lost more games to get the loser point, but you add 5 points of overtime loss, or
Mhm.
even three. You add 3 points of overtime loss, you are tied with Nashville
Yeah.
for the final playoff spot
Yeah. No,
with the
it's
game in hand still. So we'll see.
if we look at the defense, what do they need to do in the offseason, regardless of whether or not they get in? But I think everyone has kind of been on the same page, is acknowledging that that's where they need to improve upon the most. The forward groupings are, pretty darn good right now. It's keeping the puck out of the net. So, how much of a jump do you think Mook Madulin can make? And maybe let's start there. Like, why has Mook Madulin not looked like the player he was at the end of last year at all?
I think injuries have definitely played a part of it in his confidence. I think he's thinking too much. I think he's trying to do too much. I mean, this last stretch that we saw him play really well in, they moved him back to his left side for the first time this season. They tried at the beginning of the year and then he got hurt in the first game. Like, he just hasn't gotten to rhythm. And the one time he got into a rhythm this year was playing his strong left side. And I think
Mhm.
that's big. But when you look at Mario Ferraro, he really struggled when he was playing the right side. And we've seen what we're doing last year, it feels like forever ago, played really great on the right side. I think he needs to add some muscle, a lot of
Mhm.
it, because he's getting injured too much.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like it's, soft tissue injuries or like it just seems like it's physical bumps and bruises
Yeah.
that have just weighed him down almost. So I think he's thinking too much, and I think it's hard for him to gain confidence from that. And when he started getting confidence, like, and this is the part where I have some deployment issues, is like John Klingberg, you went 5-0-1 without him, and or 5-1-1 without him, and then you take Shakir Mukhamadullin out, and it's hard because I know everybody wants Dmitry Orlov out, and he's had a real tough week,
Yeah.
real tough week. but that's a guy you can't really pull out of the lineup in that situation. And you're not pulling Mario out. Vinny Darnay is one of your only right-handed defensemen. I don't think you want to play with one right-handed defenseman still, and Vinny Darnay's been decent. So it's tough because you kind of just who else do you take out? And Sam Dickinson probably after last night's performance is the guy to take out for Luka Madulin today. Give him a reset
Yeah.
because that was a shell shock moment from him last night in against Edmonton. But it's tough because I don't know when you look at the defense as a whole other than Orlov, Mukhamadullin, and Dickinson, the only guy I think about that you even think about bringing back, at least right now, is Vinny Darnay, and then you put a maybe next to Mario Ferraro. Everybody else, I think, is up for grabs.
Everyone's focusing on that play with Connor McDavid and Sam Dickinson. So do you think he's worried about getting a penalty there? Because obviously Connor isn't. He puts his arm out, he pushes guys. He's not worried about, holding. He grabs onto guys and he'll keep them away. I mean, Sam just kind of needs, even, I know that it's not only on him in that play, but does Sam just need to wipe him out?
Yes, and that's something that I think he struggled with. There was a play against Buffalo. Jason Zucker got the puck after flip in, and I think you and I have even talked about this before, where he had an opportunity to just bury him, get the play over, right? The puck's there, and Mario Ferraro was late on the back check cutting in, and he admitted that, post game as well. But if you bury him, the puck goes spinning to the corner, and there's no more problems. And he did that against Chicago, I want to say. He did that play in the corner. It was a little different play, but he buried a guy.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to a guy like Connor McDavid, it's hard to hit him. Like, that is also part, like, I think part of it is Sam Dickinson's 19, going against Connor McDavid on a otherworldly performance, not just a regular Connor McDavid night, which is already the best player in the league. Last night was I don't care who's defending me. You could put Quinn Hughes, Cale Makar, whatever you want in front of me. You could put a truck in front of me going at the speed of light. I'm going around it type night. So I think it was a little bit of shell shock and a little bit of a confidence hit because it just nothing was going right for him and it just kept folding on top of itself.
How much do you think Sam Dickinson can improve in one off season now that he's gotten a taste? Like I look at him and Misa, and I think both of them have had a baptism by fire, very different than what both Will Smith and Macklin Celebrini dealt with a year ago, because there was no expectation a year ago, and then the Sharks kept on being in the hunt this year, so the tension ratcheted up, and both Dickinson and Misa, they have been put under a microscope in a very different capacity than what Macklin and Will had to deal with a year ago.
Yeah, and I think Michael Misa's found a spot right now, but it just goes back to the CBA rule change that's coming up, right? Like that is so big when you look back, and if that rule comes in where two 19-year-olds, a 19-year-old can go play in the AHL, that was a first round pick. Yeah. I think if you put both of them in the AHL for the first half of the year, it does wonders for them because they just need to adjust to the program, especially as a defenseman. It's hard, especially as a defenseman. It's hard. Yeah. We've seen Misa have his spurts, and I think for a guy like Misa, physically, he just needs to develop more, right? Yeah. That's the big thing. We've seen his skating speed and we've seen his confidence. He needs to be able to create with more than just his speed and his hands. He needs to create with his physicality when he skates, be able to fend off the strong stick checks. And you can make the same argument with Sam Dickinson. He needs to defend more physically. I think from a technique standpoint, Sam Dickinson's stick checking needs a lot of work. He gets kind of tangled up or behind players, and that's just veteran players taking advantage of a young player, knowing all the tricks and things like that. And then the other thing is it's another deployment thing. Like you put a big tight leash on Sam Dickinson offensively when that's just not his game.
Right.
And I know you wanted him to shoot the puck more, but when you harp on defense for so long and defense first, which is fine, but you don't give him any opportunity to do the one thing that can maybe help build his confidence a lot, that can maybe get a player. It's almost like when you overstudy for a test. And I feel like they threw too much at him. And during this success, what have they done? They've kind of let him go and pinch and go. And he tried to do that last night, and it was a trial by fire with Connor McDavid, and then he just folded on top of himself, which is fine. That when you bench a guy for the mistakes he made, yeah, he's trying too much. That's where you reel him in. But to make him focus solely on defense, I mean, that's not why you drafted him 11th overall.
Yeah, and a lot of people made the argument early on, and that's why Z Boyum was having more success because he was playing more akin to the game that he was drafted for. So, I mean, it's a longer argument, and because I think there's the feeling of, well, he'll be able to do that part of his game forever. He needs to figure out this other more responsible part of the game. So,
but if you take away that part at an NHL level, it's tough. Right. So I look at a guy like Luca Cagnoni, who they said, we know you're puck moving. They've given him the opportunity and they slow build, right? He wasn't NHL ready. We've known this, but you look at his ability to move the puck and break the puck out. And what's his offseason program been? Defense, stick checking, skating. because he knows he can create and he'll get the opportunity to create. I
Yeah.
feel like Sam Dickinson could have gotten an opportunity, and when he did, it was very quick. And for a guy like John Klingberg, who didn't play for 7 games, and then they pull Sam Dickinson off the power play, I understand that's what John Klingberg's game is, but it hasn't worked all year. Why, after a 7 game stretch where you go 5-1 without him, does he automatically get that spot? And look, the top power play unit's been rolling with Dmitry Orlov lately,
Mhm.
like scoring every game right now. So you're not touching that unit. So I understand already the opportunity is limited there, but I just feel like maybe freeing him up a little bit sooner. Keeping that leash on him early in the season for Dickinson is fine, but I feel like maybe freeing him up a little bit sooner would have been more beneficial. But he's a rookie. He's 19. I think he'll be just fine.
What do we make of Yaroslav Askarov and what he was in November versus the majority of the season? Now, that said, I think that if he's got a better defense in front of him, he's point 0.5 goal better. He's probably a 9 to 910, save percentage. I know it's not just on the goalie, but what, I'm trying to think about all the many things that come to mind with Askarov. How does he make sure that he rectifies these mistakes going into his second full year as a full-time goalie? Because I think that the story is out that if you go high on his wing, that's where you can beat him. He has trouble coming up to stop that puck. You can beat him there. And I feel like he's a rhythm goalie, which means like if he is playing game after game and going well, that's great. But once he gets thrown off that rhythm, he has a hard time reestablishing.
Yeah, that's definitely it. I feel like that rhythm goalie is there, and I just think, this summer it's like a rookie pitcher in baseball. They have a big sophomore slump. They have a book on him, and
Yeah.
they got a mini book on him last year, and this year I think Askarov has a book on shooters, and they've adjusted,
Mhm.
and he now needs to adjust. So I think he'll go back. He kind of gets to experience the NHL level full time for a year, the whole
Yeah.
time, and I think once he figured it out, it was great. And then I think maybe he got a little tired because he's never been in the NHL for this long, and he's never been this healthy in his
Yeah.
professional hockey career either. He's never played this many games before in a season. Like it takes time, and he's 23. I also think he's trying to do a little too much. I think he's a
Yeah.
very mentally still working on that mental balance, right? Alex Nedeljkovic went through a similar struggle. He was really great in Carolina to start. Then he went all the way down to the ECHL again. Like, right? Like he needs time to come back. And now he's turned into a very solid, capable goaltender.
Yeah.
And I think having that as a pair is going to be useful for him. I think getting a summer away where he can disconnect, reset, train. And I think physically he needs to get a little bit more agile. I think he's big and tall and lanky, but he needs to work on some calisthenics even, get some agility in so he doesn't feel like he needs to stay up longer so he can use his athleticism to his advantage rather than his disadvantage. Because a lot of what I see, it feels like he can make the easy saves seem hard and the hard saves seem easy. You
Yeah.
kind of need to flip that around somewhat. You want to make the hard save look easy, but you want to make it look athletic more than easy. You want to use the athleticism, and you want to make the easy save look easy save because there's some rebounds that sometimes, especially when you mentioned the rhythm, where I just feel like he doesn't make the easy save easy when he needs to.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I think we saw that ceiling that he has, and it's remarkable. That was one of the best months, the month of November, that I've ever watched
He can
consistently.
carry a team for an
Yeah.
extended period. We've seen it. It's
Well,
in
that's the
there.
thing. If he was to get hot in a postseason, then that's a guy you can ride. And that's what's crazy is that he has that ability. And so it'll be very, very interesting to see how that works out. When you look to the future and next year, how much of what we see this year can you replicate? Like I know some people said, "Oh, I don't know if Colin Graff can go for 20 again," and I'm kind of like, I don't know. I don't see any reason why he can't. But I mean, I just know that the Sharks this year, have done very well in the close games. They've won so many of the overtime games. Do you think that, this is just the natural correction of them last year having so many games where they blew it in the third period or overtime and then they were able to get all these tight wins? Maybe next year they can space things out a little bit more as opposed to being in so many, clenching games, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I think it definitely is a little bit of a course correction. I mean, they won what, like 9 straight overtimes or something like
Yeah.
that, right? Like I think part of it is they learned to play in the closer games. They learned to what they need to do. And like everything else I've said, the book adjusted to them, right? Now you got to go back. It's a game of adjustments. I think there's many things that can be replicated. And the big thing for me is Colin Graff gets no power play time. Why can't he score 20? Sure, if you make some adjustments, you sign some people, you bring people up, Colin Graff's role might change, and he might not be in that top line with Smith and Celebrini, which for the most part of the year, I would say he hasn't really been there. Maybe 15, 20 games this year. But Graff's played just every game this season. Like he's a guy who can produce. He's a PK guy. He's learning to shoot more. He's getting in the high danger areas. There are times like last night where he can disappear, where you want more from him, and that's where I feel like he'll benefit being pushed down the lineup a little bit because he can be that third or even second line scoring winger who's going to be your PK guy. I mean, there's many guys who've done that. Brad Marchand in the early part of his career was never a 100-point guy. He was a PK guy who could score you 25 to 30 goals. I think you look at the ceiling of Colin Graff, be a little less than that maybe, but he's going to give you PK time. He's going to give you top tier defense time. He's out there with Celebrini and Wenberg at the end of every game. He might be able to pot in 5 or 6 empty net goals. You never know. So I don't see any reason why Colin Graff can't replicate it. And I think there's going to be improvements from guys like Will Smith who might disappear, or we talked about Misa and Dickinson. What are they going to look like next year? There's a lot of time where people are looking right now. We're in it right now. Big picture, there's a lot to get better at, and that's not necessarily just from a player's perspective. I think there's a lot that Coach Rosowski can get better at from a tactics perspective as well, which I think will benefit the team as its roster gets better.
Do you think that's though because he's not trying to overload a lot of the young talent?
To be honest, no, I don't think it is. I think I've always struggled with his tactics. I think he I'm not saying he is overloading them, but his defense system, it seems very chaotic, and for a young team playing in chaos like that can confuse them easily. So while I don't think they're overloading them, I think he's just trying to do too much
Mhm.
on his own end and he needs to simplify. But at the same time, you can't because offensive schemes have gotten so freewheeling and smaller tendencies, you can only control so much. So I feel like as everybody kind of relaxes and gets used to it and gets better and understands what they need to do, and as the defense blue line gets better roster wise, then you can start implementing more direct and tactile systems rather than more of a flow and energy type system, which I feel like for this team has hurt them but also benefited them at the same time.
Can Will Smith learn how to be a little bit more aggressive and welcoming the physicality from one season to the next? Because I think there have been times this year where he's just been a little bit too lackadaisical going after pucks and trying to avoid some physical contact. And I'm thinking to myself, buddy, you gotta eat more steaks and potatoes and hit the weight room and be ready for more of that physicality. Because I know that there is more of a finesse aspect to his game. I don't need him to turn into, some sort of brute out there, but I need him to not be avoidant of some of the more harsher parts of the game, which I think we've seen at times.
Yeah, we've definitely seen it at times. Last night he threw a couple hits. He was better
Yeah.
at it. Biggest thing for me is while he does need to put on some more muscle, I think he needs to stay lean because the biggest thing for me is his foot speed.
Yeah,
Because
he
there are
needs to
times
improve
where,
there.
yeah, and that's something I've always said about Will. He's great hockey mind, can make the play with the best of them. But if his feet can catch up to his hands and brain, even in the slightest, it's going to help him so much. And you also have to remember he had a pretty serious shoulder injury. Like I wouldn't be surprised if over the summer he gets some work done on it and maybe
Yeah.
does some minor surgery just to tighten up the socket there if it was like a shoulder separation, something like that. So I think maybe since then, maybe he's taken a couple hits where he's felt it, but he's been okay. So maybe that's in the back of his mind a little bit, especially during this time of the year where everything is incredibly physical. The hits feel 3 times as hard, the speed feels 6 times as fast. And you look at the beginning of his rookie season. He seemed kind of shy, but you could see a player in there. And
Yeah.
as he's gotten through this part of the season, he's seen the offense, you've seen the flash moments. I think it's almost like a rookie season to playoff pushes for him. Macklin Celebrini got that at the Olympics, and you've seen him adjust for it quickly, and he knows how to adjust quickly. I mean, one thing that John Cooper said at the Olympics is Macklin Celebrini was taking a lot of risks with his play in the first game. That went away after one game.
Mhm.
Will Smith is not Macklin Celebrini. It's going to take him some time to learn that, and I think you mix more experience with him. I mean, he's going to put up 60 points this year. It's a great season. He's going
Yeah.
to be just about a point a game. I think there are some dirty area work stuff that we need to see, but I think that all comes from him gaining muscle, staying lean though, don't overload the muscle, and really working on that foot speed because his edge work and his ability to maneuver is great. The speed, the quickness, even that
Yeah.
first step just needs to improve there.
As a final one here, what do you think free agents are going to view San Jose as? Are they going to view this as a team that they think they can come in and join and then be on a fast track towards deep runs? Or do they still maybe need a little bit more of a show me from this young San Jose squad?
I honestly, I think, if they didn't go on this little winning streak, this little run, I feel like you might go into the offseason thinking they might need some show me. With the biggest part of the free agency in the offseason, defense is going to be needed. There's not a ton of free agents out there. I think we see some trades, but I also see defensemen like a Darren Radish who got all this opportunity in Tampa Bay, and you have Kucherov and Point and Gensel there, and you look at the Sharks, and you have Celebrini, Smith, Eklund, Chernyshov, Misa,
Mhm.
and you're like, there's similar style players, quality players, for me to do exactly what's going to get me paid this summer and opportunity for me to do it because I don't see any risk of somebody taking PP1 if I sign there. So I think it for me in the defense, I think it's a place of opportunity with the ability for guys like Radish or Kessering who are offensive minded to say, hey, there's a need for me there. They've got a lot of cap space. They've
Right.
got an exciting forward group. I can contribute here. And it looks like it's a real fun place to play.
Max, I will let you go. I know you want to enjoy your day, but I appreciate your time, and we will chat soon. All right, my friend?
Awesome. Thanks, Ted. Enjoy the Masters.